Looking for something spooky to watch this Halloween and beyond? Well, Netflix has got you covered. Whether you're looking for something new and different or you just want to watch a classic, there's plenty to choose from. Here are 13 underrated and modern classic horror movies and television shows you can watch right now on Netflix. Hush. If you haven't seen this movie yet, it's an absolute must. You don't have to take my word for it because Stephen King himself said the movie was up there with Halloween in terms of quality. William Friedkin, director of The Exorcist, also had positive things to say about the movie, calling it terrifying. It's hard to get higher praise than that, but if you're looking for another reason to see this one, it's worth noting that this was directed by up-and-coming filmmaker Mike Flanagan, who has worked on such movies as Oculus, Gerald's Game, and the upcoming sequel to The Shining, Dr. Sleep. Haunting of Hill House. Since we're talking about Mike Flanagan, it would be foolish to ignore some of his finest work in the series The Haunting of Hill House. This show borrows from all the classic haunted house tropes while still managing to tell a creative new story. There are so many twists and turns that you probably won't see them all coming, and it's always nice to experience something fresh like this in the horror genre. As you might have guessed, Flanagan is also responsible for creating this series. As with Hush, Stephen King was quite impressed with the results of this one, saying it was close to a work of genius. In the Tall Grass. Speaking of Stephen King, we should probably make an honorable mention about one of the newest original horror films which is based on a story from this illustrious author. While I can't speak to the quality of this one yet, it definitely looks creepy and it appears to have some nods to films like Children of the Corn and The Happening. I'm sure some of you might wince at the thought of a movie similar to The Happening, but there appears to be something much more menacing about nature in this movie. If you're looking for a new horror movie to watch, you won't find anything newer than this on Netflix right now. Creep. While some of you may be familiar with this one, those of you scratching your heads might be surprised by how good this low-budget found footage movie actually is. Mark Duplass takes a somewhat sharp departure from his typical fare by playing the creep in this movie, and it's almost like he was born for the role. He may look like a perfectly normal guy, but there's nothing normal about him. Even if you don't normally like found footage, you might find yourself enjoying this one simply because of the off-putting creep described in the title. Creep 2. If you're planning to watch the original, you might as well follow it up with the sequel. That's right, Creep was so well received that they made a direct sequel to the movie that essentially picks up where the first one left off. Once again, starring Mark Duplass as the creepiest guy you've ever seen, this one actually goes even further than the previous fare in making you entirely uncomfortable. If you're looking for something that will really disturb you, Creep 2 should do the trick. As Above, So Below. Since we're on the subject of found footage horror films, this is another one that you should definitely see if you haven't already. I'd almost call this a modern classic, but I'm sure there are a lot of people who haven't seen it yet. Like the other found footage movies on this list, As Above, So Below is a different take on the genre. The story takes us to the underground catacombs of Paris, where a young woman is on the hunt for the legendary Philosopher's Stone. It doesn't take long before things go terribly wrong. It would be easy for anyone to get lost in these tunnels, but there's definitely more to it than that, as the protagonist and her group start seeing things that couldn't possibly be there. I won't give too much away, but what I will say is that this is definitely one of the better films in the found footage subgenre, and it's totally worth checking out. Green Room. Not a fan of found footage? Check this one out instead. Starring Patrick Stewart and Anton Yelchin, rest in peace, this horror movie calls back to siege films of the past such as Assault on Precinct 13, playing on the actual horrors of humanity. When an unknown indie punk band gets a gig in a small town in the Northwest, the last thing they're expecting is to play to a crowd of neo-Nazis. After finishing their set, everything goes wrong and they must fight for their lives to escape. The practical effects in this film are excellent, and there may actually be a few scenes with such believable gore that they'll make you sick to your stomach. Train to Busan. This is another one that could be considered a modern classic by those who have seen it, but if you haven't experienced this one yet, you might want to give it a shot. Train to Busan is a South Korean horror film that tells the tale of a train full of passengers trying to survive as the zombie apocalypse begins. Even if you're not really a fan of the zombie flicks, you might find this one enjoyable. Even Edgar Wright, director of Shaun of the Dead, said that Train to Busan was the best zombie movie he's seen in forever. In addition to all the underrated horror films we just mentioned, there are also quite a few modern classics you might want to watch. Some of these are new, some are a little older, but they're all pretty safe bets. If you're looking for a horror movie or show that a majority of audiences have enjoyed, consider one of the following. The Conjuring. This one has spawned a series of horror films that continues to this day. As a matter of fact, the third official film in the series is set to come out next year. This is the perfect time to get caught up, and you can start with the very first movie in the series. If you're a fan of haunted house stories, this is an absolute must. Insidious. Much like The Conjuring, this one also has spawned a series of films. Insidious tells the tale of a young boy being possessed by a demon and the attempts of paranormal investigators to save him. If you liked movies like Poltergeist, chances are you'll enjoy this one as well. Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. Most people have seen this one by now, but if you still have yet to experience the comedic brilliance of Tucker and Dale, do yourself a favor and watch it right away. This is a horror movie that throws the genre on its head, as the creepy rednecks are the ones who are actually under attack from teenagers going camping in the woods. If you're up for a parody of films like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you'll probably love this movie. The Cell. While many people are familiar with this one, it has fallen through the cracks for a lot of audiences. This movie has elements of horror that can only be called sadistic, feeling more like something you'd see in a Hellraiser movie than something starring Jennifer Lopez. The story literally takes us into the mind of a serial killer, and the results are just as terrifying as you might expect. Goosebumps. If you're looking for lighter fare, you'll find pretty much every episode of this classic anthology horror for kids on Netflix. Whether you're a millennial like me with fond memories of the books, or you just want some family-friendly spooks to watch, this is an excellent option with several different stories to choose from. That's it for this list of 13 underrated and modern classic horror movies and television shows you can watch on Netflix in October of 2019. Keep in mind that some of these titles may leave Netflix in the coming months, so this list may not be accurate for long. If a movie or television show mentioned in this video is no longer available on Netflix, make sure to check other streaming services to see if it's available anywhere else. Thanks for watching. If this video introduced you to a movie you enjoyed, please leave a like and share it with your friends.